Hello fellow cinephiles, Film Guru here. So I'm continuing on my look at the movies from the book 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die, and continuing on looking at the films in that in different eras and the films I can get my hands on. So today I'm looking at a film that was very controversial when it came out and still controversial for the subject matter and what transpires in this film. So today I'm looking at Sodom, or also known as 120 Days of Sodom. This was directed by Pier Pablo Pasolini and came out in 1976. Four powerful and prominent men, leaders of the local fascist mechanism, host a group of kidnapped young men and women, expressing their ultimate desires as the world crumbles around them. Four aging courtesans relate stories of their carnal past, which are then acted out with the guests of the party. By experiencing their power to degrade and destroy, the fascists illustrate how the misuses of power lead to the murder of innocents. It's classified as one of the most controversial films in the history of cinema. Wow, this, I don't know what to say about this film. It's quite eye-opening, surprising, it's disgusting, it brings up all these really negative emotions in you watching the film. It's just such a difficult film to get through. I read in the 1001 they talk about, someone said, it's not a good experience, but it is experience nonetheless. And that's exactly what it is. It's an experience. You go in to this film not quite knowing what it's about. Now, to tell you the truth, this is a film I'd heard about for quite some time, and I heard there was some pretty full-on moments in it, and the storyline was pretty full-on with what was going on in the story and in the film. But I didn't really grasp how controversial it really was. Even though the film is very full-on, and full-on enough for me, it wasn't as full-on as I expected it to be with all the talk about this particular film and the subject matter it was conveying. It's a really difficult film to review in many ways. I'll start with some things that I liked, and these are the only things that I liked in the whole film. I liked the first 10 minutes of setting up the world and the characters, and you have this feeling throughout that opening sequence that something bad's going to happen. It's going to lead to something really dark, but you're not quite sure what. I thought it was beautifully shot, which is weird to say, but the framing of some of the shots and scenes were fantastic. It looked beautiful. It really captured the scenery they were using, this old sort of house that they could use and film in such a beautiful way, and the way the characters interact in that world is kind of interesting and kind of beautiful in a way, the way it's shot. I like the first character that we meet who starts to tell her story. She's like a prostitute that starts to tell experiences that she had. They do act these experiences out. But there's something about the way of her delivery and the way that she sort of comes into the scenes. And there's a moment where she randomly dances and she sings, and she sort of feels like a fairy godmother or a sort of a fairy tale-esque sort of character. And that's weird to say for a film like this, because this is definitely not a freaking fairy tale. It is just brutal in its subject matter. I can't convey that enough. The use of music was really interesting. And throughout the whole film, I just have this feeling that Pierre was trying to tell us something. There was something he was trying to say and convey through the film. But I couldn't quite grasp exactly what it was. But I know he was trying to tell us something. I read one review of it where they talked about how it was shocking for shock value. And I don't agree with that. I think that everything in this serves a purpose to the story. We just don't quite know what it is. I think there's a lot of metaphors and a lot of underlying things happening in the movie itself. Certain sequences mean something else. I know that I had this feeling throughout this, with the Nazis and whether that was a reference to what was happening in the world in 1944, where this film's set during World War II. I'm not quite sure. I don't know enough of the history of Italy to really grasp what Pierre was trying to tell us. But that's about all I really liked about it. The camera work. It just felt like, I wouldn't say it's a harrowing film, but it is uncomfortable to sit through. It's not a movie for everyone. This really won't be a lot of people's cup of tea at all. But if you're a film buff, if you're wanting to watch movies from the 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die book, this is worth checking out. But only if you're a fan of films like Human Centipede, Cannibal Holocaust, and movies like that are controversial for a reason, but are quite shocking and disturbing with what they're portraying on screen. This definitely fits in that realm. If you've got a weak stomach or don't like things of violence towards people, stay away from this film. You will be scarred by it. You will be disturbed by what you do see in this film. There's a sequence where they eat something that you just should not eat, and it is the most foul and disgusting thing that I've ever seen on film, and it still sits in my mind. I felt, in part, this was a film I shouldn't have watched. The imagery sticks in my head too much, and it's a film that I didn't enjoy enough to get a lot out of. But on the other hand, part of me is sort of glad in the smallest way that I did see it, and now I know what it's about, and now I can talk about it and tell people to stay away from it, or tell other people who might enjoy it to watch it. 3 sequences called different circles of different things. So the first one is Circle of Salt. It's about a prostitute character who talks about experiences, why these men sit around with all these men and women and just sort of listen to the stories, and then when they feel like acting something out, they'll take a person away and do something with them, and then that is disturbing in itself. And then the second part is called the Circle of Shit. And the thing I talked about that they ate, that sums it up in that sentence. And this part of the film I just despised. It made me feel ill. It was disgusting. It was sort of degradation. It was about destroying people and decay, and it was about controlling people and standing over them and just acting out things they felt they should act out or wanted. And this whole thing, and with the characters telling her experiences, I would have preferred not to see any of this sequence because it was just disgusting. And the last part is Circle of Blood. And this variety of different things, there's torture scenes. There isn't really a lot of redeeming factors about this film. And it's a film I would never watch again. I'm not interested in it. I know there's a variety of videos out there talking about what they think the meaning of it is, and I would like to see those videos to see, come to some sort of conclusion for myself. But this film is controversial for a reason. But it's the last 10-15 minutes that is the most disturbing and shocking in the whole film. It's about what these men do to these people that they've sort of abused through the whole film, and their last sort of punishment. And this is shot with each one of the main men who have orchestrated this whole sequence sitting in a chair watching the binoculars out into the foreground. They're just sort of seeing these things transpire, and we see them through the binoculars. I see why they did that, because you didn't want to be right in there with it, and they could do particular sequences and effects there that they probably couldn't do if they were close up. I don't know too much about this filmmaker. Maybe all these films are like that. I don't know, but it's a harrowing film in a lot of ways. I just can't glorify it. I can't tell people to watch it because it's a horrific sort of movie. You have to have a strong stomach and a strong sense of morality and a strong will to get through this film. And it does have an impact on you. It does affect you in a negative way, and it shows things in a negative light. I know it's fake, but I really felt throughout the whole film, I really felt sorry for the actors. I know nothing we saw in the film was real, but just what the actors had to do, where they had to be nude in sequences, where they had to do these particular things that were just wrong and immoral in a lot of ways. I just felt for them. And I just hope they weren't scarred and affected too much by what the experiences that they did have in this film, as it isn't a good experience for anyone, not the viewer and not the actors within the movie. There are sequences within it that just feel like they get away from all those sort of horrible things. And they show these characters as people. There's a lot of sequences where these 4 men are sitting around talking about things and how they feel and what they're interested in. There's this character in it, this red-headed middle-aged lady who plays the piano, does a lot of the music for the sort of things when people are telling stories and stuff like that. And she's really affected by what she sees, and her decision in the end of what she does is quite shocking, but I can see why she was led to that particular thing. And then the last scene of the whole thing, throughout the whole movie, they've had these particular young guys who are sort of like the guards there. They're probably 17, 18, something like that, very young. And they've seen all these things and experienced all of them and seen it all happen, but it doesn't seem to affect them, because in the end, there's these 2 boys and they're talking, and music comes on, they start to dance, and they start talking about normal things, like this guy has a girlfriend, and just feels like what they've just experienced was just normal. It's something they see every day, and it doesn't affect them at all. And I just sort of, how do you get to that point where it doesn't affect you anymore? It's just a surprising movie in that regard, in the little quiet moments. That's why I feel he's trying to tell us something within it, but I just don't quite know exactly 100% what he's trying to tell us. Yeah, this film, there's not a lot of words to express it. It's a film you have to experience if you're strong enough to, but it's not a film you're going to love. The punishment they go through is what the people felt the punishment they were going through in reality. And it just felt like it was trying to hang on to something. Since everything was decaying and falling down, it was like characters just felt like, if this is going to happen, we're going to do everything we want to do, so when it does end, we've done everything. And that's kind of what it feels like. And look, if you've seen this film and you have an opinion, what you think it's about, I'd love to hear in the comments below. Just let me know what you think of it, what it's trying to say and convey on screen. Anyway, that's all from me today. I hope I don't have to endure too many more of these sort of movies, because it's quite a harrowing experience. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please hit subscribe down the bottom and follow me on Facebook. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.